Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Spartan Sports Podcast. My name is Carter Fry. Today, I am joined by
Thomas Chavez.
And Zachary Lockerman.
Today, we are going to be talking about the big game that just happened this past Sunday, looking into who might be the all-time GOAT. I mean, after that performance on Sunday, I'm not sure how to argue it's anyone but Brady, but we're going to be talking about that. And a little someone left the Detroit Pistons this past week. A little old friend of mine, Derrick Rose, headed to the Knicks. We're going to be all over that. But getting started with Thomas, what did you think of the Super Bowl this past Sunday?
It was a disappointment in terms of a game. It wasn't close. But again, I mean, the Chiefs just kind of shot themselves in the foot that game. You can't give up 11 penalties and expect to win the game, especially when the Bucks played quite a clean game. And the Chiefs just on their defense, they just every time it was like a Bucks third down, they'd give up a holding penalty. The Bucks would be able to continue their drive and just make their way into the end zone. So you can't really have that and expect to win.
Zach, your thoughts?
I predicted the Chiefs to win. I couldn't have been more wrong. It really was. It was a few different things. Like you mentioned, the Chiefs shooting themselves in the foot. They definitely did that. I mean, too many penalties on the defensive end. And let's just be completely honest. I think I could have given Patrick Mahomes that same amount of time from edge rushers. I knew that it would impact. I thought there'd be pressure throughout the first half, but I mean, those guys are terrible. Like they're so bad that I don't even think they deserve a backup job on any team anywhere. Like they were horrible. And then you just got to look at Patrick Mahomes fighting for his life and his receivers not helping him out a speck. I mean, it was hard to watch. I mean, but some of the throws he was making were incredible. I mean, I give him credit for that, but you can't really give the Chiefs credit for much else.
It's interesting to note Mahomes was pressured on 52% of his dropbacks, and the Buccaneers only blitzed 6 times in that game. So he was facing a 4-man rush and still getting pressured 52% of the time.
Which is a Super Bowl record. Most wasn't like the most all time or most since 2009 or something like that. Something crazy.
Yeah, it's not a recipe for success, that's for sure.
And I mean, on the Bucks end, I mean, Tom Brady came off like not the greatest game in the previous week versus the Packers, and he was pretty immaculate. I mean, he was Tom Brady in the Super Bowl. I don't know why even at 43 I expected anything different. But it's so funny how many former Steelers are connected to the Tampa Bay Bucks, and the coach Bruce Arians and Byron Leftwich, who called a beautiful game for them offensively, seemed to do all the right things. Gronk transformed back into primetime Gronk. And then you love seeing the boat parade afterwards, where Tom Brady's just absolutely just massacred, just tearing it up in the post game parties. So it's fun to see.
Yeah, I mean, that man lost his sea legs there at the end, but let me just say I did not at all expect the Chiefs to score anywhere near 9 points. I thought they were going for at least 30. I would have been shocked if they went under that, but they lost 31-9, and it's all because of the defensive penalties, all those pass interference calls, holding, and just the complete failure of the offense outside of Patrick Mahomes. That was one of the most impressive performances I've seen from a quarterback whose team let him down that hard. Obviously, he didn't play his best game ever. They only scored 9 points, but it's hard to score. Well, it's hard to score more than 9 points when you can't get anything going because your receivers are dropping balls. Had they caught some of those, they could have gotten some momentum going and made it close. But it just that things kept happening at very inopportune times.
Yeah, I think the two big plays that you look at that really sort of give you an example of all this was the third down throw to Kelsey, which he drops. That was sort of the start, like, if they show you what the start of things to come. And then there was the throw where he seemed to have created what was like 5 minutes behind the line of scrimmage. gets caught on his foot, goes down to like nearly like a horizontal plane and flicks the ball somehow like 30 yards and smacks his receiver in the face in the end zone. And he just goes down. And they somehow the cameraman got a perfect 4K image zoomed in right at his face, and he's just like what else do I got to do back here? Like that seemed to be like the moment where it was like, okay, this is not going to happen. Like that seemed to be the straw that broke the camel's back. Well, I think it was like that was either late third or fourth quarter or early fourth. I don't remember
Yeah,
which one it was.
those two plays are the ones that have been running through my head when I think of the drop passes for sure.
Yeah.
So Bucks win the Super Bowl. Tom Brady wins MVP. They go on and have a big championship parade. What did you think about Tom Brady throwing that Lombardi trophy across the water?
That was not the smartest move in the world, because if you drop that and it goes into the water, there's a good chance you might not get it back. There's a good chance it gets damaged. Like that's just him wilding. I don't know why he did that. I wouldn't dare do that, but I guess that's what's afforded to him when he is
Listen,
at the stature he's at.
You know exactly why he did it. He was like 15 Coors Lights down. He was not thinking about consequences. It's one of those moments that in 50 years they'll be like looking back at Brady and Gronk's best, and that'll be like one of the key moments when Brady threw a trophy across the boat during a boat parade and Gronk caught it. I was more worried for Gronk because that trophy is heavy, and I imagine like not exactly like the most easy to handle. Like imagine that slips and like smacks you in the face, and like, oh, I was worried for Gronk, but it turned out to be a great moment, but it could have gone bad in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, they really seem to be cutting loose on those boats the other day.
What did Brady tweet? It was like too many avocado like martinis or tequilas or something. I forget what he said, but he was definitely having a good time.
The avocado joke is really starting to go around.
Oh man.
But yeah, after a while, that was a wild Bucs Super Bowl win. No one really expected them to blow out the Chiefs. At least I didn't. Wild Super Bowl parade. But after talking about all that, we are going to be moving on to some news that we got this week. I think first reported by Shams that Derrick Rose is on his way back to New York, reuniting with former Bulls coach Tom Thibodeau and former Bulls teammate Taj Gibson. I personally was a big fan of those 2010, 2011 Bulls. It's what got me into basketball and sports really in the first place. So seeing them all teamed up really gets me emotional. But Thomas, how are you feeling about Derrick Rose leaving your team? You should feel sad because it's a blessing to have him on your team.
I mean, the thing is, he needed to be traded at some point. The Pistons are like knee deep in their rebuild at this point, and they just need to dive into the deep end. The return, I'm not too huge on. A second round pick is fine, I suppose, but Dennis Smith Jr. in his career has not shown the ability to really be much in the NBA, at least so far. I hope he can play well, but from what I've seen since his rookie year, he has not been like a starting caliber point guard, if even a backup. I'm more interested right now in looking at the Knicks, though, with this trade, because it doesn't make much sense to me. You trade away your point guard, which you already have a logjam in. They have Elfrid Payton, Emmanuel Quickley, Frank Ntilikina, and they had Dennis Smith Jr. And they traded Dennis Smith Jr. for another point guard to keep your logjam going. So now it's Ntilikina, Payton, Rose, and Quickley all trying to get minutes at point guard or shooting guard. And it's going to be hard to get all of them minutes and, be able to play. So I don't understand why the New York made that trade. I think you'd be better off getting like a small forward or something rather than a position you already have three of, but I suppose they made the move anyways, so it happens.
Yeah, I don't really have too much to say about Derrick Rose. I mean, at this point, I hate to say it because I know Tyler loves him. I know Carter is a big fan. I mean, who cares? It's honestly at this point, he's not really anything too. He's not going to go somewhere and that team suddenly becomes a contender anymore. So I mean, I don't know why either team would even interest themselves in the trade. I don't really get it. There's probably some reason that it was made, but I mean, I don't see how either way it sets either team up for the future.
I will say for Detroit, Dennis Smith Jr.'s contract expires, so at least his money is going to be off the books after this season. I mean, Rose's was too, but at least they got something back for Rose and an expiring contract.
Yeah, I definitely think Rose needed to get out of there. He really, I think, deserves to be on a championship caliber team as kind of that sixth, seventh man. And if he can win one or two titles, I think there's a chance if he can be that, third, fourth guy on a championship team coming off the bench, potentially getting in there, but definitely not getting there with the Knicks. So I think he'll be on his way out of New York again pretty soon. But Dennis Smith Jr., I think, has a lot of potential for Detroit. His career really hasn't panned out yet, but I'm still kind of holding out hope on him. So I don't think he'll be terrible, but I can't, really shoot. He's got a lot of athleticism, but looks okay. And, the overall, potential and how he looks like he could pan out over the course of his career. But Derrick Rose in New York, I don't really like the fit. Like Thomas was saying, the long list of point guards that are already there. On top of that, you throw in RJ Barrett and Alec Burks, who can both also play the one at times.
And then you also have Julius Randle as another ball dominant player. So
yeah, I mean, it's really hard to see how that offense is gonna function. But yeah, Knicks front office with a little bit of a head scratcher. I'm surprised that they were the front runners for Rose.
Yeah, I don't really understand it.
The Pistons are also now starting to create an issue at point guard because now they have Killian Hayes, DeLon Wright, Saben Lee, and Dennis Smith Jr. They're like putting themselves in the same situation that the Knicks are in right now, except the Pistons are in that situation with a bunch of young guys, while the Knicks are in that situation with a bunch of veterans and a rookie. So it's just, I don't think that either team really gets what they should have gotten out of the trade because they're just swapping the same position and not really gaining much in terms of depth at positions that they need.
I mean, I guess the biggest argument would be that the Knicks don't have a lot going for them. I mean, they're the Knicks, right? I mean, like they haven't had anything going on for them for 60 years, so why start now? But they do have to still sell tickets, and I guess Derrick Rose isn't really a player you think of when you mention like he's not out. We all know he's not the same player he once was or anything crazy like that. But the name Derrick Rose still carries weight, probably more than it should. It'll still sell tickets, which are what I'd imagine the Knicks are more interested in right now anyway. So I imagine that could have also played some sort of role just to sell more tickets this season and maybe re-sign him. I doubt they will, though.
I mean, in any other season, I would be like, yeah, that's a good point. But no one's in the arenas right now.
Oh yeah. So why did this even happen? You're 100% right.
The Knicks are trying to make a playoff push. They're not doing bad.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, they're talented. Yeah, just the point guard, the fact that they're out there going after,
I mean, now that you pointed that out, it makes no sense to me.
Derrick Rose definitely helps you if you're trying to make the playoffs, but I don't see how he helps you long run by just creating an even bigger issue at the point guard position with so many people.
Yeah, but I mean, what you just gave up for D Rose, I'm saying I think the Knicks maybe could have gotten a better fit for what they need somewhere else, giving up similar assets.
They didn't give up much though. That's one positive is they didn't really have to give up much to get Derrick Rose. I mean, a second round pick is not the most valuable thing in the world. Like teams trade those for money. So it's not the worst thing.
Now that I remember that the fact there's a pandemic happening, yeah, it makes no sense to me. So I mean, it is what it is. But anyway.
Well, that is Derrick Rose to the Knicks. We'll see how it plays out for him this season as he tries to revitalize his career. And before we go, we're going to talk about one last quick topic, going back to something a little Super Bowl related. Now that Tom Brady has 7 titles, he's gone to 10 Super Bowls in 20 seasons. I know there was, this talk, on social media you referenced earlier, Zach, about, or it might have been Thomas too, but Serena and, how people were comparing her legendary status to Brady's and how they stack up. I really think it's uncomparable just because of, how often they play majors and, how they were adding up those stats. I just think it's totally uncomparable. But when it comes to football, not comparing sports here, is Tom Brady the greatest quarterback of all time? I don't know how you argue now.
Yeah, I mean, I can start off with this. I mean, the only person you can compare Tom Brady to in football is the creative player that we all made when we were like 15 and then proceeded to win like 15 Super Bowls because it was on easy mode. Like there's nobody else. I mean, for years, it was like for years. And I'm talking like 8, 9, 10 years ago, it was only like Brady, Montana. And the only reason you could ever put that anyone could ever argue that Montana was over Brady is that, well, Brady has 5, but like Montana is like undefeated. Like that was like the argument, right? Now it's just like so ridiculous. Like the records, not just like his winning records, like playoffs and Super Bowls and all that, but like the statistical records and like the consistency throughout time. I mean, like there's the whole thing going on social media. It's like, well, Tom Brady's had 3 Hall of Fame careers. But I mean, while that is impressive, I mean, if you look at those 3 stints, those 3 7-year stints to add up to his like 21 total years or however long it is, you look at each one of those categories and statistically it's almost even. I mean, the difference is like 102 touchdowns to like 187 or something like that. So I mean, that's a ridiculous amount of consistency, and not just consistency, but consistency at a high level. Like you hear about the guys who play for like a long time, but they're not great for a long time. They're just consistently okay for a long time, but the guys that, do it consistently great for a long time are like Kareem, LeBron, Tom Brady. Like those are the guys you think of. There's nobody close. And I hate Tom Brady. As a Steelers fan, he's tortured me for my entire life, almost. I mean, it's so ridiculous what he's done. I mean, that's just my personal opinion. I'm sure Tyler would agree with me, but it's just so ridiculous what he's been able to accomplish and what he's going to continue to accomplish, because the man is 43 and wants to play till after he's 45. I mean, come on, man. It's not fair anymore.
I mean, for me, I think you can't really make a very large argument against Tom Brady being the greatest quarterback of all time. He certainly is the most accomplished. Statistically, he's, top 3. So that alone kind of just puts him right there at the top. The only thing that I can really think of is you could argue that he hasn't been the best quarterback in the league, like while he's been playing that many years in his career. Because like at what point did he pass Manning for best quarterback in the league? At the beginning of his career, at what point did he pass Manning? Like 2007 when he got Randy Moss?
Well, see,
and he had 50 touchdowns.
That's a whole different argument, because as far as talent goes, I mean, it's hard to find someone who's ever more talented than Peyton Manning. But talent and greatness, I think, are 2 different arguments.
Well, but the thing is, if you're going to say, like, at what point in his career are you saying, I'm taking Brady over, in this season, I'm taking Brady over all the other quarterbacks here? So you do that 2007, 2008, he's hurt, so you can't choose him. 2009, you can.
I say that the undefeated season is where it.
Yeah, so 2007 undefeated season, that's where it starts. Maybe through to 2010, but then 2011, Drew Brees has his like huge monster season. then Aaron Rodgers and Russell Wilson come along in the following seasons. I'm not saying that Tom Brady isn't the greatest of all time. I'm just saying the argument that people can make against that is that he hasn't been the best quarterback in the league for a very long portion of his career.
But see, I mean, if you're talking about the very best, I mean, I assume you mean like statistically, like hasn't put the most yards or touchdowns or this, that, or the third. I mean, is that the kind of argument that you're making? Like, is that what the potential argument would be? Is that he didn't have as many yards?
My argument is the best quarterback in the league in any given year.
Yeah, I mean, it does seem like it's, always someone, like there's always one person that's like, oh, they're at the very, very top. They're number one dog. Brady was better at winning than all of, the people he competed against. But, was he the best, most talented quarterback all the time? No. I definitely agree there with your point, Thomas. But I'm also going to agree with the other point that I'm not saying he's not the GOAT.
I mean, I can put it like this, I guess. Were there quarterbacks that performed better throughout the regular season and this, that, and the third? Yeah, probably a lot of years. A lot of those 21 years, that was definitely the case. But when it came time for those 2-minute drills and when it came time to wrap this sucker up, not a single person that you named did it better than Tom Brady. Not Russell Wilson, not Patrick Mahomes. I love Patrick Mahomes. Not Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers hasn't been a Super Bowl in a decade. And so what are we talking about here? I mean, let's be honest. Aaron Rodgers couldn't win an NFC championship game if he was up 40 points at halftime. I mean, that's what it seems like. So all I'm saying is, you say, oh, he's the best at winning. That's the point. That's like the only point that matters is that you win. And he does it better than he leaves the coach to say, well, this is the reason he's always done it. And went to the Buccaneers, who with the same exact team last year had Jameis Winston, and they weren't great. They get Tom Brady at age 43, and they dominate the previous champions in the Super Bowl. So I mean, and he makes it look easy. It looked easy for Tom Brady. So I mean, I think the answer is yes. I think that he has been the best, and I just hated on him because I was a Steelers fan. So I mean,
all right.
I'm not saying.
Go ahead, Thomas.
I'm not saying he's not the GOAT. I'm just saying like that's the only argument you can really make against him if you were to.
Yeah, I'm just saying I don't think the argument applies. Like I get it. I get what you're saying though. But I just don't think there is any argument. I don't think there has been for 3 years.
So as we wrap up the show, no arguments, just quick takes. Who are your guys' GOAT of GOATs in sports? One name.
Tom Brady.
Michael Jordan.
And I also say Michael Jordan.
I don't know, you can be the GOAT of GOATs when you're not even the GOAT in your own sport, but I mean, hey, that's a different argument for a different day.
Yes, it is. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in to the Spartan Sports Podcast. I'm Carter Fry.
I'm Thomas Chavez.
And I'm Zachary Lockerman.
This is us signing off. See you guys next week.
Peace.